Hey guys, it's Maymay and welcome back to another episode. This is going to be our second in our HalloCraft series, and we're using the Big Book of Holiday Crafts. It's right here. Link for this book is below if you're interested. It has some really cool stuff in it, and we're focusing on Halloween and fall every Friday between now and October 31st. And today I'm going to focus on this boot. I think this is super cute, and I just wanted to see how it came out. And I got a couple ideas for how I'm going to decorate it, and we can get started. One cool thing that I think is it also doesn't have to be a witch's boot. I think this could be an elf shoe. So think about like that too. Alright, so what we do first is we head to the back of the book, and there's a pattern on page 284. And I will show you the pattern. This book is getting so tattered because I am bending it all over the place. Here's the pattern. It tells you to enlarge this to 250%. And when I do that, I get this. Now when I measure this, this is going to fit in a 6x6 envelope. It's slightly larger than 6 inches. So what I'm going to do is just kind of cut it a little short of that fold line just so I can make sure it'll fit in a 6x6 envelope. But there's that. If you wanted it to be any smaller, you can just adjust it whatever way you think. So we have our pattern. We need to cut this out, pick some paper, and get started. So the first thing I'm going to do is cut this pattern piece out. And I'm going to try to cut it really close to the line. So I'm going to take my time with it so you can get a good smooth cut. So here's our boot pattern all cut out. Now something I know from sewing, and not because it tells me in this in the instructions, but this dotted or dashed line is where we want to put this on a fold line on a piece of paper. I'm going to do some playing with the boot itself. Now theirs is very plain. You can see in the picture that it's just the base is one color and then it has some lacing up here. I want to do something a little more fun. So I'm going to pick some paper and I'll be right back with you. So I have this pack of paper that's called the Bella Armoire Stack. I just love this paper. I've had it for a long time and I've used almost everything in here. But for me it feels very Halloween-y or very vintage. And I'm going to use this paper that is actually 4 pieces. And they're 6-inch panels, but it's one piece of paper. We're going to utilize this section for the card and then this section for something super fun. So I'll try to find a link to this. I know they still sell it because I saw it at Michael's. If I can find a link, I'll put it below in the description. Okay, the first thing I want to do is cut this page apart. Now I want this to be the card and this I'm going to use for something else. So I'm just going to separate these 2 pieces from each other. So I'm just going to line this up here so that I get just this half of the page. And now I want to fold this in half, but I'm going to score that to make sure I get a good line. So I'm just going to bring my scoreboard over and put this in, and I'm going to score it right on that line that is 6 inches so I can be sure I get a good fold, because that's actually going to be the fold of the card, and we're going to utilize the front and back of the paper. So I'm going to go ahead and fold it. Oh, it folds so easy after you score it. Wow, that was easy. Okay, and let me get it lined up. I don't know why I'm worrying. That really won't matter much because I'm fixing to cut it away anyway. Okay, so there is this. Now I want the boot to go in this direction, but it's going to be hard for me to trace onto this black and see it. So I'm going to flip this over and trace it upside down. Does that make sense? So that way when I get it cut out, it will be going in the direction I want it to go. Okay, I'm also going to put a tiny bit of temporary adhesive there just to get that to stay in place and make sure I have plenty of room for this guy. And I'm not too worried about how much is going to hang off the top because I just want this to be a 6x6 inch card. I just want to make sure that the base is covered here. So I'm going to trace this. I'm going to start here. The thicker paper that you use for your pattern, the easier it is to trace. If you go ahead and use a good cardstock for this pattern, you'll have a pattern that'll last you a long time, and you don't have to be quite as easy because you can put a little pressure on it. I didn't. I just used copy paper because I ran it through the copy machine. But if you're going to make several of these, I would definitely do this on some cardstock. Okay, so we're all traced out. And now I'm going to cut it out so I can have my boot in my card shape. And remember, because I folded this, I'm going to cut through 2 thicknesses of paper. But when I finish, my card will already be done. And you'll definitely want to fold it on whatever paper you use. Unless you just want to, you could adhere them together. You know, you've done that before. So you could just adhere them at the fold. That'd be fine. Okay, so the boot is cut out. Now I'm using the black part for my front of my boot and this for the back. Isn't that cute? What I need to do, I think I need to ink these edges in here because look how the white is kind of really showing. So I'm going to do that really quick. And I'm just going to use some Vintage Photo Distress ink. And I think, let me see. I have this piece of scrap paper I'm going to lay underneath it. And I think what I'm going to do is come in from the edge and just kind of brush it in instead of rubbing it. So it'll be a little thicker of an ink edge. So it will hide really good when you're looking at it from the front. And it still will look cool because it's giving it that vintage edge look. Yeah, I think I like that better. So now when you see the edges, it's just a little brown, kind of dirty looking, which is good because we want it to look old. And I'm going to come back here to the back and do it here on this lighter color. So I'm just going to ink that like we normally do. Because this paper was kind of inked before, and I think it would look good since I cut the inked edge away to bring it back. You can see here how the ink is at the bottom, but I cut it off. Alright, so we are inked up everywhere. Now here's where I wanted to do something fun. I'm going to go back to this pattern, and what I want to do is I want to make like a little boot piece right here that's kind of white, kind of like a like an actual old vintage boot insert. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to take my pencil and just draw kind of a loose, kind of wavy line. This kind of reminds me of an old spat. You remember spats? I don't remember them either, but I know what I'm talking about. Okay, so now I'm going to cut this away to make a pattern for that. And you could do this in any shape with any kind of shoe. You know, change that tip or don't change it. Just make it into an elf shoe. I think it'll be super cute. But I want this to look like a vintage old lady shoe, like really spooky looking. You know how they look. Okay, so now I don't need this portion. I just need this portion, and I need to pick some paper for that to work on. And remember that page that I cut apart? I love this. I think this page will be really cool for it. So what I'm going to do is just stick this down so I can trace it. Sticking down something like this. And this doesn't have to be on a fold because this I'm just going to mount to the front of the card. Okay, and this time I'm going to cut around it because I adhered it down with some temporary adhesive so it'll stay just fine. This shows you how many options you have with the way you do something. Okay, so now I will pull this away. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and ink it before I put it in place. And I want to ink it kind of heavy. I want it to look kind of old and tattered. You might even want to distress the edges. That would look cool too. Now my plan for this is for it to go right here and look like an old vintage shoe. Now I need to trim the top off because remember I cut this a little bit shorter. So I'm just going to adhere this down and then trim it off. So I'm going to use some ATG on the back. So stick some down. And because I'm going to trim that top, I'm going to focus down here with lining it up. Because I'm going to trim that anyway up there. Love how that looks. I love it. Alright, let's trim it off. I'm going to hit it with a little more ink since I trimmed it. That's super cool. I love it. Okay, now for the fun part. We're going to lace it. Let me see what I have for laces. So I have this piece of white ribbon, but I don't want it to be white and I don't have any beige. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to ink it. I'm going to bring this guy back over and I'm going to do this kind of cheatery. I'm going to take my ink blending tool here and I'm going to press and pull. Pulling that ribbon through and I'll show you what it does. I'm going to stop so you can see the difference. Can you see that? And the less ink you have, you can see how it does. So you can always just come down here, press it into a different spot on your tool, and pull and get a very antique-y looking. I'll show you. See the differences where it hits? See that? I'll come up here and do this one too. You can do this as much or as little as you want. And I do need to do both sides, so I'm going to go ahead and ink this up again. Flip this over and just start on one corner. Just kind of run it through. And now we have a tattered looking, inked up piece of ribbon. Cool enough. Alright, now let's talk about how we want to do the lacing. What does it say to do? Let's read what the book says. Punch holes along the edge of the boot. Now they punch their holes pretty close, pretty often. Let's see what we can do. I'm just going to make some marks. Just roughly close to each other, about a quarter of an inch, half an inch at the most apart. I'm going to take the Crop-A-Dile on the smaller hole, and I'm just going to go through and poke all those holes, but only on one side because I want the card to be able to open. So I'm just going to take it through to the holes, punch them. The holes look pretty cool like they are. Do you see them? I think they look neat. Okay, now let's lace it up. So I have a little pointy part of my ribbon. I'm going to pull that through. And what I'm going to do is just let that lay here as I lace, so it'll kind of wrap inside of the lacing that I'm doing. So I just kind of bring that just kind of around. And as I lace with this piece, it'll hide that piece for me. You don't have to use a ribbon. You can use something, you know, baker's twine or anything. You could probably even use a shoelace if you want to just ink one up. That would be cute too. Okay. Bring it around to the next side, next hole. Alright, so I'm at the last one, so I'm going to poke this through here. And as I come back out of it, I'm going to show you. Before I pull it all the way tight, I'm going to kind of straighten this piece out a little bit. I didn't really worry about the other ones, but I want to stick this through and kind of lock this ribbon in place without having to stick it behind it with a piece of tape or anything. This will just kind of do what we did at the bottom and lock it. Okay, and then I'm going to trim that away. And I'm going to cover it with a bow anyway, so it'll be fine. Now look how cute that is. It's really cute like that, isn't it? I think that's super cute. I think this would make a cute mini album cover. Like if you did that boot a little bigger, you could use this for a mini album pattern. That'd be super cute. Okay. Now they have a bow and a button. Oh, I've got buttons. Let me get one. Look at this vintage worn out button. I think it is so cute. Now let me show you what they did. They took their ribbon. I'm going to use that same ribbon I already used. They took it like this. Hold on. They took some string. Okay. They tied a bow. I'm just going to do a bunny ear bow. I'm just looking at the picture trying to figure out how they did it. This ribbon looks so vintage after you ink it. Okay. Trim this end off. And then it looks like they took the string and fed it through their button. Like so. And then through the other side. From the top down, it looks like. And then tied it to their bow. What I'm going to do is lay it down with those strings up so the front of the button is down, lay my bow in the middle, and then tie it. That's really a pretty easy way to do that. Good tip for future projects there. Alright, let's see what we're looking like. Oh, that is so neat. I'm going to trim my tails a little bit more. And now I'm going to put that down with some foam squares or some foam adhesive. I have this foam adhesive that is pretty strong. Let me trim some off. So take this piece, put it on the back, peel off our backer, and put you down up here. That is cute, isn't it? It needs some bling, I think, right there. Let me see what I've got. Okay, because I'm more of a pearl girl than a bling girl, I decided to use some of these sticky back pearls. And I'm going to peel one off and put it right inside the center of that button. And then I'm going to put some here because I think it'll be cute. And I have them, so why not use them, right? I like them on the edge. I think it shows off that little swirly edge we've got. That. Up here. Here. Yeah. You can stop when you want to. I love pearls, so I'm going to keep going as much. You know, I just love them. I think I need one more up there. This one lost its adhesive, so I'm going to put a little Tombow in. Right here. And put this down. Oops. Just let that sit for a bit. And there's our card. Let me zoom in for you. So I felt like it was too hard to see on that black, so I put a little cream behind it. But check this out. Isn't that cute? I just think that's adorable. What a cute little witch's boot. Let's look at theirs again. So this is how theirs turned out. You can see that's super cute. And here's mine. It's a little different than theirs, but that's okay because the book can just be a way to kind of give you some ideas to get things going. So there we go. That's part number 2, or the second in our series of HalloCraft for 2014. I hope you enjoyed that one, guys, and I will see you guys on Monday for who knows what. I don't even know at this point, but I'll see you on Monday. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.